My name is Caleb Danner. I was 32 when my marriage stopped being real. No criminal history, no complaints on file, no raised voice that ever made it past the walls. The cabin was supposed to be a reset. 5 years married. Things had gone quiet, not dramatic, just flat. She said we needed time together, away from phones, pressure, city noise. I agreed, took the time off, booked the place 2 months in advance, paid in full. It was in a wooded area 2 hours from home, nothing too remote. A modern cabin, keypad lock, security system, smart thermostat. Everything still, quiet, controlled. She acted grateful. She packed snacks, downloaded playlists. She even brought the same wine we drank on our second date. We made it 2 days without incident. Then, on the third night, I stepped out onto the back deck to take a work call. 10 minutes, maybe less. The signal was weak, but the call was brief, just a regional routing update. I kept my voice low. When I came back inside, her phone was on the arm of the couch, screen still glowing. She wasn't in the room. I didn't go looking for anything. It was right there, a string of notifications. One from my brother, then another, and another. The name flashed 3 times in 1 minute. I tapped once to silence them. The thread opened. The last message said, "You have 10 minutes. Is he gone yet?" The one before that. Lock the door this time. I'm serious. My thumb hovered. I didn't scroll. I didn't have to. The preview bubbles were enough. A blurry selfie of the two of them. Another photo. Her lying in our bed at home, wearing a t-shirt I hadn't seen in months. Timestamps matched the weeks she claimed to be visiting her sister. My brother had picked her up himself. I scrolled back just once, looking for the first message. The earliest one was dated 6 months ago. "You shouldn't have married him." I didn't speak, didn't pace, didn't throw the phone. I walked to the bedroom and sat at the edge of the mattress, both hands in my lap. She came in 4 minutes later. She must have seen the light on her phone. Maybe she saw the open thread. Maybe she didn't care. She stopped in the doorway. Her voice was soft. "What's wrong?" I didn't answer. She looked toward the living room. Her posture shifted. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She blinked fast, once, twice. Then, "Caleb, you're scaring me." I turned my head slightly. "You're just sitting there, not saying anything. What did you see?" Still, I didn't speak. She stepped back into the hallway. Her voice went louder, more frantic. "You read my messages?" Another step. "You can't just invade my phone like that. That's abusive." Her voice rose a pitch. "You've been distant for months, and now you're going through my things. What else did you do? Did you follow me here?" I stood, calm. Still didn't raise my voice. She moved toward the kitchen. Then, deliberate, she knocked over a chair. It clattered across the floor. She gasped. She backed up, still crying, and opened the front door. Then she stepped outside into the cold and screamed loud enough for the cabin next door to hear. "Get away from me!" I stayed inside, didn't touch anything. 3 minutes later, I saw red and blue lights bounce off the treetops. The officers were calm. She was not. Her voice was shaking. "He's unstable. He went through my phone. He locked the door behind me. I think he shoved me. I hit the wall." I said nothing. She kept going. "He's obsessed with control. I've tried to talk to him for months. This is the first time he's gotten physical. I didn't know what else to do." I was asked to step outside. I complied. They asked if there had been any physical contact. I told them no. They asked if I had read her messages without consent. I said yes. They asked if I had threatened her. I said nothing. She had no bruises, no marks, no torn clothes. But she had tears. She had a flipped chair. She had a story that started before I got back from the deck. They didn't arrest me, but they filed a report and told me not to return to the cabin until she had checked out. They didn't ask for my side in detail, didn't review the security system, didn't ask who the messages were from. I left that night. Didn't sleep. 2 days later, I was served with a restraining order. Her name is Dana. We met through my sister. Dana worked in physical therapy. Smart, measured. She said she liked steady men, said I was the first person she ever dated who wasn't a project. That was 7 years ago. We moved fast. 6 months in, we rented a place together. 1 year later, we got married. Small ceremony, no drama. She cried during the vows, said I made her feel safe, said she'd never known calm before me. I believed her. The first 3 years were solid. She worked mornings, I worked nights. We overlapped on weekends. She picked up groceries without being asked. I handled the bills. We didn't fight about much. The change didn't come suddenly. It came quietly. She started texting more at night, started staying late at work, stopped asking me how my shift went. I thought it was burnout. She said I was cold, too focused on logistics, said I turned everything into a checklist, groceries, date nights, even affection. I asked if she was seeing someone. She looked me in the eye and said, "If I was, I wouldn't be this bored." That was the last time I asked. My brother Justin was always around. He was younger, sharper with people, didn't keep a schedule. He floated between jobs, tech 1 year, consultant the next, always had money, never had a plan. Dana said he was fun, said I shouldn't be so hard on him. He offered to help her install new lights in the kitchen, helped her pick out a new laptop, sat with her at family dinners when I was stuck at work. I noticed how often they texted. She told me it was innocent. He's just checking in. When I asked him directly, he laughed, said I was paranoid, said, "You think I'd do that to you?" I wanted to believe him. He was my brother. But I started keeping track. One night she said she was going to her sister's. Her car's GPS pinged from a bar across town, the same one Justin posted from on social media. Different tables, same lighting, same timestamp. I saved it, didn't say a word. The next month I had to cancel a weekend trip last minute because of a work emergency. She took the trip without me, said she needed the space. I checked the hotel booking, room for 2. She still came home, still acted normal, still washed the coffee cups and refolded the towels. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like routine. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have proof. Not until the cabin. That was supposed to be the test. No friends, no distractions, no exit. She brought it all with her anyway. The restraining order arrived 2 days after I left the cabin. It was cleanly written. Said I posed a credible threat to her physical safety. Said she had reasonable fear of escalating emotional volatility. There were no bruises, no photos, no medical reports. Just her word, and a printed screenshot of my face, looking tired on a security camera still. That was enough. The judge signed it without a hearing. Standard 30-day emergency order. I was barred from returning to our house, barred from contacting her by phone, text, or through third parties. Barred from being within 300 feet of her job, her gym, her sister's home. I stayed in a short-term rental outside the city. No one from my family called. Not my mother, not my father, not my brother. that told me what I needed to know. I reached out to my sister instead. She didn't know the details, just that Dana had filed something. I asked if she'd heard from Justin. She said he'd gone quiet, deleted his social media, changed his number. He was hiding. Dana was doubling down, and I was outside my own life, reading it like a stranger. I still had the hotel confirmation, still had the GPS logs from earlier that year. But I needed more. I filed a formal request with the cabin rental company, asked for a copy of the exterior footage from our stay. They told me everything was saved to a local drive and purged after 72 hours unless there was an incident. I told them there had been one, that law enforcement had visited, that a police report had been filed. They pulled the backup manually, said they'd send over what they had. While I waited, I started documenting. I made a timeline, text threads, location pings, financial records. Every time she said she was somewhere else, I checked receipts. There were gaps. She'd been careful. But Justin wasn't. He'd used his rewards account for hotel bookings, restaurant reservations, a ski pass under his full name. During a week, Dana told me she was helping her sister recover from surgery. I compiled it all into one file, sent it to my attorney. She read it and asked only one question. "Do you have audio?" Number. But I was about to. The cabin footage came through 3 days later. 2 angles, front porch, driveway. I scrubbed the timestamps. On the night she accused me of intimidation, the video showed something else. Me stepping out for a call, her picking up the phone, unlocking it, scrolling quickly, then setting it back down, screen still lit. She walked to the hallway, paused, pulled her hair loose, and started crying. No one touched her. No yelling. No threat. She kicked the chair over herself. 2 minutes later, she called the police. Voice clear. Breathing steady. Then she walked out the door and started screaming. The log confirmed it. She set the whole thing up. I didn't argue, didn't send long messages, didn't show up at her job or call my brother. I let her build the narrative while I built the proof. The cabin footage gave me leverage. But leverage isn't the same as control. I needed more. So I began recording everything. Every call with my attorney, every traceable transaction they made, every date that proved she wasn't where she claimed to be. I submitted a full report to the court requesting a dissolution of the restraining order. We included the video of her setting up the scene, GPS records showing she wasn't where she'd claimed during previous emotional distress dates, hotel receipts linking her to my brother under joint reservations, social media timestamps, travel logs, and booking overlaps. All of it clean, simple, no fluff. My attorney advised I not attend the initial motion in person. "Keep the pressure low," she said. "Let her think you've disappeared." In parallel, I escalated quietly. I hired a third-party firm, compliance review, not private investigators. No trench coats, just quiet legal observers with access to records. They pulled employment disclosures from Justin's workplace. He was in finance, compliance sensitive. They found inconsistencies. He listed himself as single, no familial legal entanglements, on a disclosure dated the same week Dana filed the protective order. I gave them the protective order, and the video showing he was at the cabin within the restricted period. That's a problem for any regulated job, even if he wasn't charged. They flagged him, suspended pending investigation. No headlines, just a quiet email. "You are temporarily removed from client-facing roles." At the same time, I filed a formal motion for malicious prosecution. It wasn't about vengeance, it was strategy. Once that claim was active, every text and timestamp was under legal review. She couldn't delete messages, couldn't alter her story. Every digital move she made was now under court monitoring. The court granted a hearing for the restraining order dissolution. Her attorney requested a continuance. Denied. I didn't inform anyone in my family about the hearing, not even my sister. This wasn't a reunion. It was an audit. Dana arrived at the courthouse 15 minutes early. She didn't look like herself. No dramatic makeup, no smug expression. Just quiet, neutral. Hair pulled back tight. She wore flat shoes and carried nothing but a small folder. She didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge anyone. The judge didn't open with questions. He opened with the video. He played it once, from the security footage. Paused when she tipped the chair. Paused again when she opened the door and screamed. Then he asked both legal teams to approach the bench. Her attorney leaned in and whispered. Mine didn't say much, just waited. 10 minutes passed. Then the judge returned to the bench and cleared his throat. He didn't look at her. He looked at the transcript in front of him. This order, he said, is unsupported by the evidence provided. The respondent posed no physical threat. The incident described was manufactured. Then, the restraining order is hereby dissolved. It should never have been issued. Dana didn't cry, didn't plead, didn't argue. She looked straight ahead, hands flat on the table. The court clerk filed the judgment immediately. My attorney handed me a stamped copy and said, "That's one piece down." I nodded. We didn't stay long. No need to celebrate. This wasn't over. 3 days later, I received a confirmation letter. Justin was officially terminated for non-disclosed personal involvement in a conflict-sensitive legal matter. They didn't name me. They didn't have to. His profile disappeared from the company's site that afternoon. I printed it from my records. Dana didn't reach out. She didn't try to backtrack or explain. She stayed silent, hoping the quiet would protect her from what was coming next. But that wasn't how this would end. The civil hearing wasn't open to the public. That was by her request. Her lawyer filed for a restricted docket, citing reputational risk due to professional license obligations. The judge approved it, but that didn't mean the record would stay sealed. Only the room was private. The outcome would still be public. She showed up 10 minutes early. Gray blazer, neutral blouse, hair tied back, no makeup, no jewelry. She walked like she wanted to disappear. Justin didn't come with her. His name had been removed from all related filings. She sat across from me but didn't look up once. Not during the judge's entry. Not during the introductions. Not when my attorney outlined the facts in clear, numbered sequence. We didn't dramatize the footage. We didn't play it again. It had already been reviewed by the court and included as official evidence. What we focused on instead were the choices she made before the cabin. My attorney spoke clearly, with no emotion in her voice. Exhibit B is the domestic incident report submitted by the defendant. Exhibit C is the reservation file that shows joint travel with the plaintiff's brother, a timeline that overlaps with claimed periods of distress. Exhibit D is the booking confirmation from a resort stay listed under both surnames. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Dana's side argued misinterpretation. They claimed the emotional stress of the marriage made her feel unsafe, even if no physical threat had occurred. They said the report was filed in good faith, with the goal of protecting herself from future harm, not punishing me. But intent to protect didn't align with surveillance footage showing her stage the event. And when the court asked why she never recanted after the footage surfaced, why she let the restraining order stand for 30 days, her attorney said, "We didn't want to escalate conflict." The judge paused, then asked, "Was the conflict real or staged?" No answer. He leaned back and reviewed the transcript. It took him 20 minutes to rule. He didn't raise his voice, didn't lecture, just looked down, read the final line, and said, "The court finds the defendant liable for the filing of a knowingly false report, which directly caused reputational and material damage to the plaintiff. Civil damages are awarded, formal judgment to be recorded." He didn't mention the affair, didn't bring up Justin's name. He didn't need to. Dana didn't react, not a word, not a movement. She stood, gathered her things, and walked out without making eye contact. My attorney handed me a stamped copy of the ruling. She said, "You've got what matters now." I nodded. That was true. I wasn't interested in the money. The court awarded modest damages. I didn't push for more. What I wanted was precedent. Her name was now tied to a false claim in a legal system that treats that seriously. She held a state license, worked in a regulated profession. Malicious prosecution and false report weren't just words, they were red flags. She didn't get fired, but she was moved. Quietly, her name was removed from the official site. Her client schedule disappeared from the system. By the end of the month, she was sitting in the back office doing paperwork, nothing that put her near patience. I received the update from a former coworker of hers. No gossip, just facts. "She's not allowed to lead assessments anymore," she said. "They told her it was temporary, but everyone knows it isn't." That was enough. Justin tried to reach out once. Blocked number. One sentence in the voicemail. I didn't know she was going to do that. I didn't respond. I didn't need an apology from someone who watched it happen. Instead, I focused on the last piece of the plan. I called the cabin owner and made a full offer on the property. He laughed at first, said, "People don't usually buy places tied to bad memories." "This isn't about memory," I told him. "It's about narrative." I closed within 3 weeks. Once the deed was in my name, I rewrote the cabin policy. All incident reports would now be matched with full timestamp review. Every unit included built-in security logging. Guests were required to agree that footage could be reviewed if disputes arose. That part wasn't just policy, it was documentation. The next person who tried what she did wouldn't have the luxury of controlling the story, and neither would she. I didn't tell her I bought the place, didn't post about it, didn't say anything, but I knew she'd check. Knew eventually she'd look the cabin up again. And when she did, she'd see the name on the ownership record. She'd know I still owned the ground where she told the first lie. And this time, it was her name on the record, not mine. After the judgment, she stayed quiet. No appeal, no public statement, no apology. She didn't challenge the verdict. She didn't deny the footage. She just stopped existing in spaces where my name might come up. The civil ruling triggered a mandatory disclosure process for her license. She submitted the form, late. The review board flagged it. No revocation, just a permanent mark. She could keep working, but never unsupervised, never alone with a client, never again trusted without oversight. Every job she applied for from then on would see it, not in the headline, but in the footnote. Just enough to raise questions, enough to slow the process down. That's all I needed. Justin moved out of state. He wasn't fired officially. His firm gave him the option to exit voluntarily after the internal ethics review. He took it. I heard he's working under someone else now. No clients, no direct accounts, a background figure. That fits. Our family stopped asking questions. At Christmas, there was no invitation. At Easter, no one mentioned either of them. Silence replaced loyalty. I didn't explain what happened. They didn't ask. Sometimes the cleanest break is the one that's never discussed. I updated my will, removed Dana's name from every file, closed the joint accounts, the shared benefits, the emergency contacts. She disappeared from the systems in the same quiet way she tried to erase me. The final part was procedural. The county clerk updated the online record to reflect the judgment, a one-line entry added to her name in public databases. False claim, civil liability ruled. That line mattered. It meant anyone who searched her before signing a contract, hiring her, or trusting her with confidential information would see it. No lawsuits from me, no smear campaign, just facts in plain language. That was enough. A few months later, I got a letter from the cabin's previous owner. He thanked me. Said since the policy change, they'd had fewer incidents. People read the terms more carefully, respected the space more. It wasn't justice, it was just better order. I visited once, out of formality, not nostalgia. The chair she'd kicked was gone. The door was reinforced. The place was exactly as I remembered it, except for the silence. But this time, it felt different. Not like something missing, like something removed. She didn't ruin me. She rewrote a version of me she thought would be easier to erase. She made me out to be the threat, filed it on paper, staged it in front of a camera. Said the words loud enough for officers to write them down. She bet on panic. She bet on shame. She bet I wouldn't have the patience to prove it all wrong. She lost. There was no apology. She didn't try, and I didn't need it. Closure isn't an apology. Closure is watching someone walk away from the wreck they caused and knowing they're still standing in it. My brother made his choices. He told himself I wouldn't find out, and if I did, I'd stay silent to protect the family. I didn't. He lives in a different city now, works behind a desk, not the face of anything anymore. No photos, no spotlight. Exactly what he earned. Dana never remarried, still uses her maiden name, still has a license, on paper. But the work dried up. No one trusts someone with a fraud ruling tied to domestic court records. It doesn't need to say abuse. All it has to say is false. That word does the damage for you. People ask if I miss who she was in the beginning. Number. She was always this person. She just hadn't built the lie yet. The cabin stays empty most of the year. I don't rent it out often. But when I do, I vet every guest myself. Not for who they say they are, for who they try not to be.